Do you want me to try
there we
it?
go. Surprise.
Oh,
It was a super delay because I'm in Indiana.
Well, very Gary, hello.
Well, all right, everyone. Here we are back once again for the final installment of Trent's Fierce Birthday Weekend.
And happy birthday!
Or tonight. It's not today anymore. It's tonight. Thank you.
He's got a delay.
Thank you.
I remember making balls with you 9 years ago.
It's
Yeah. Trent's got a delay, so it's funny because you'll say something and then like 3 seconds later, he's like, "Thank you."
I was wondering.
Yeah.
What?
No, he was like, "Not now, Derek.
Yeah,
we'll talk to you when it's ready."
So yes, today we are joined by Derek, our friend from another friend from college. So we're having college reunions today, left and right. So Derek, we start with this with every episode. With every episode, what's your favorite scary movie?
Dawn of the Dead, the original Dawn of the Dead, 1978 Dawn of the Dead. Favorite. It's a real life comic book, and anyone who loves going to the mall or did should watch it and feel like a total asshole. That's why it's so good.
Yes.
It's a good one. Wasn't that Lauren's also?
What?
No, Lauren had 3, and they were like Hereditary.
Lauren, she said Night.
She did. She had 3 though, and it was not Dawn of the Dead because I would have remembered. I would have been like, "You and Derek talked beforehand." So yeah.
No. What's number 2 again? What's number 2?
So, what was number 2?
Like, I forgot her trio, but we agreed with it. We were like, yeah, that scans. That's fair. Yeah. They weren't like crap movies. Yeah. You think I would remember because it was just like 3 hours ago.
You think I'd remember because I watched
3 hours ago or like 5 days. Yes. That was so many drinks and hopes ago, like 3 hours ago.
Oh, yeah, Lauren's movies.
Yeah. I liked all of them as the sad part.
Anyway.
She did say Hereditary. I remember that.
Same. Yeah. She did say Hereditary. All right. Well, anyway. So, Derek, do you have any social media or projects you want to plug before we get started?
Do I? Well, real quick, because I'm not concise. It's just hard for me to be concise. If you want to follow me on Instagram, Dawn of the Derek. For everybody who wants to catch me on Instagram, Dawn of the Derek. I like to just post goofy, silly things. It's definitely less professional social media I get on when I do remember to hop on there. If you scroll far back to October, you'll find fun, horror-themed things that I'm sharing left and right on Instagram. I have zero shame about that. On Facebook, I started producing 10-minute plays. Haven't done it in a while, though. That's called Give Me 10 Productions. Check that out. That's pretty cool. And then I finally started my new Play Exchange profile last week. But right after this, I cleared it out because they asked me to do this episode, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, guys. But I'm going to have one play posted on there, and it's called Fear Itself. It's a 10-minute werewolf horror play that I've purposely kept it empty just so that way you guys can find it. All right? So look me up on New Play Exchange and then read Fear Itself. It's a 10-minute horror play.
On it.
Done.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. So we're talking about American
Well, let's get down into
London or Paris today.
London.
Yeah.
London. Yeah. That would have been awkward.
We ain't going to France.
It would have been like it was in Europe, so.
Let's talk about grunge.
Let's go.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trent.
Are you good? You're good. Derek, why don't you go with one of your first notes or your first thoughts or opinions, whatever.
I watched it for the first time about like 10, 15 years, a long time ago. I forget. And I was just amazed at how it is literally the best werewolf movie I have ever seen. Especially the year it came out was also Wolfen and The Howling. So in 1 year, you have 3 of the most important werewolf flicks ever of all time. And depending on who you talk to, those are the best werewolf flicks ever of all time. And it really holds its own and sets the bar for those 3. Rick Baker did the special effects. Okay, the cast, David Naughton and oh crud, what's the other guy's name?
I just took the pop quiz. I did not write that down.
Oh,
okay. But it's a great story. The story is what gets it through, and the special effects help the story out. I think it's the first time we see an actual transformation happen on screen, which is a big deal, of course. And we get to see, it's a painful experience to go through this. That's right. It's not just a Griffin Dunn. Thank you. It was on the tip of my tongue. I thought it was done something. But something that I noticed about it last night for the first time watching it again, it's so perfectly well paced. It's like the Fargo of horror flicks, where because Fargo's not a long movie either. It's about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. And there's nothing more in the movie that's not needed, meaning everything that happens really helps fuel the story forward. And after I watched American Werewolf in London last night, I actually did watch American Werewolf in Paris, just out of morbid curiosity. And it was night and day, and it taught me so much more about American Werewolf in London and why it works so well. It works so well because it doesn't try to be funny. It's hilarious. It is hilarious, but all of the laughs and goofs at the expense of the story, they actually happen in a way that makes the next thing in the story happen. But then there's just so much violence in the movie. So much, and not even the werewolves, but when the werewolf is running all over London, when David Naughton transforms for the last time and he busts out of the porno theater, just the chaos that ensues. And it really struck a chord with me, especially considering everything that's been going on the past few years. And it just made me think of people going nuts in the street and what fear does to us. And it just made me look at it in such a different way than I never had before just watching it last night. And overall, it really strikes me that we're all afraid of becoming something inside of us that we don't like. And this movie, it starts out the very moment you have that inkling that you're about to recognize yourself as something you don't want to, and then until the very end, and there was nothing extra in there. So we're really just watching this man cope with this horrible case of mental illness that he inherited overnight and doesn't know how to process or deal with it. And then in the end, he's realizing his mistakes that are against his own will that he's carrying out unconsciously every day. And then he decides to just let go and not let it take him over anymore. It's really powerful stuff, especially how there's nothing in the movie that doesn't revolve around David, the character. The beginning, and as soon as David is gone in the movie, so is the movie. And that's my take on An American Werewolf in London.
Yes.
Absolutely, Robert. I agree with you. It wasn't his fault, but he had to live with it, and he had to cope with what he was doing.
Yes.
Right.
How you feeling, Amanda?
It's an amazing cult classic, right? I had seen it. Of course, the last 15 minutes I didn't get to see as a child. My mom barred me from seeing that end. And I was like, oh, now I remember the porn theater in Piccadilly Circus. Now I know, the sexy, the orgy happening all night. I remember those posters. I was was his name Cole and the babysitter Googling orgy? What is an orgy? So, it's a cult classic. And this won an Oscar, right, for makeup because they were really changing horror in the game of, and this is amazing makeup and what they did. And I was like, oh shit, this is nice. Even seeing Jack come back and how we were seeing death as it progressed was really amazing. It just hasn't aged well. Some of the jokes I just was not, of course, in the, I get it in the 80s and those, that was the humor. But I was yeah, I wasn't real. I was laughing at moments, but some of it I was like, "Ooh, this is forced." And like the relationships of like you meeting a guy who's unconscious and like suddenly Nurse Price and they're like he's gonna come stay in my house, but he's mentally ill. And now we're gonna make out in the shower for an excruciatingly long time, unless it was a Dove commercial where I was like, "What the hell is happening here?" Which I guess you needed to see that relationship because we needed to see what love is, right? We were gonna like, how does he fall in love and like that whole, yeah, I'm okay. I mean, I love the makeup and I love a lot of what was happening, like two friends in Europe and all this stuff is happening. You know, what do you do when you're alone too? You have nothing or nowhere to go. And now you're in this position of like, what the hell happens next? So I do love that. Like, I mean, Sharai, you've been in Europe and you're like, what the hell? I'm the only, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's still a cult classic. I love the makeup, but I don't know if I was as passionate about it because a lot of the jokes and the things, maybe it wasn't written for me, you know, it wasn't for me. I wasn't their main audience. So I enjoy bits of it that make it that classic, but not highly invested in it. And that's okay.
Yes to both of you, because like I definitely have notes on both sides of that line, which is funny because you're on opposite sides of this square for me. But also I thought it was really, really fun for me because like I did just go to Europe and like I forgot how scary it had to have been to travel when you can't just be a basic ass bitch like me and pop into a Starbucks for directions. Like, what do you do? And I also watching that pub, but just sort of sending them out to slaughter, and the woman's like, "We can't do that." That right there is its own like 10-minute movie, and I wanted more of that. There were so many random things that they joined together to make this work that I would have like, this is a solo project already. Like him just hearing his friend Jack, who's also sort of deteriorating, coming back to visit him and haunt him and bringing people he's killed recently. I was like, this is also another movie. It was like 3 different movies working to give me the one, and I was here for all of them and how they like fuse together. I did have one question though about the doctor who like traveled to investigate what happened when I can get a doctor to investigate my symptoms when I'm in the room with them. So I don't know like what London healthcare is. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all 3 of you. I really enjoyed. I enjoy this movie. I do think it's funny. It's a lot of like that British humor that's very dry. Like when the cops knock over all the bedpans, like that made me laugh. Like, you know, but I also I didn't love the use of the female character, the nurse. It felt like she was just there to be love interest. She wasn't really given any stakes outside of that, and I don't think I necessarily needed it. I do agree with what Amanda said that we wanted to see what love feels like, but that love could have been a platonic love between him and a friend who's dead. Like we could have visited through that a little more. I also know that he does need some kind of stake to keep him in London because if she went there, then who knows where he would have ended up. He probably would have just flown home to America. I also want to just mention off the top, this movie is definitely a part of my blossoming as a young gay man. I watched this as a young teenager and definitely had a baby crush and all the nudity, and I was very happy as a young gay Trent, 12-year-old watching this movie.
There was a lot of butt. I will give you that.
A lot of butt.
There was a lot of legs crossed over one another.
Yeah.
That kind of
like,
posing dead.
Had I known, I would have made a drinking game. I might not be.
And that wolf cage.
Oh, yeah.
That wolf cage. You saw some things.
Yeah,
That's all I'm going to say.
I didn't. So, like, the first time I knew I was an asshole watching this movie is when Jack gets attacked and David runs away. And I cackled. I cackled. Yeah, but he's like, no. And he turns around when it's too damn late to go back. And I was like, good sir. What?
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Now that he's almost done eating you, I'm going to run back. And that way he'll be closer when he tries to kill me.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about something in that moment though, because when they left that pub, they told them stay on the trail, don't stay on the road or where the line is, and they veered off, and not that far away. It's tiny, and I'm sure other people catch it, but then it just kind of makes you wonder, like, ooh, wait. So if they just would have fucking listened to the people who live there instead of doing their own thing,
right?
Like stupid Americans on vacation.
Americans.
They'd still be alive? Yeah?
Ooh. It's very American to just be like, I know best, and then wander off into the universe and get attacked by werewolves.
Yeah, and to not dress appropriately, right? Like no hat or gloves. You're backpacking throughout Europe, but you're not going to have the necessities to like do that.
If you need a puffy vest, you need a hat.
I thought about that same thing too. And I wonder if that was just because of the times or I don't know, maybe we're just looking into it too much. What was the budget on this film? Does anybody know? I think that would explain a lot.
I know they went big on the makeup.
I mean, it had to all go to the makeup.
They had to have, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it gives them a purpose to go to the pub, right? We're cold. We need to find shelter. Because if you're warm, you're not going to look for shelter. You're going to keep going.
I love that pub too. Love that pub.
Yeah, that pub was fun. I'd hang out there.
Same.
It's terrifying to think about. I get scared enough. I'm a male in my 30s. I get scared to walk into a new bar for the first time. $10 million.
$10 million.
Robert's got answers, y'all. What?
So 1980, $10 million.
And I guarantee you 8.5 of it went to makeup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Won the Oscar though. Rick Baker.
Won the Oscar.
Yeah. Good investments.
Did we mention that John Landis directed this as well? So John Animal House Landis. Think about that.
Yeah.
Right. And this was his passion project. He worked on this for 11 years.
Yeah.
Before he could ever do it. Like he had this idea before Animal House, before all the comedy that he did to get the notoriety to be able to do it. Much like George Lucas with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Had the notoriety to do what he wanted to do.
It kind of makes you wonder how nasty and dark the original script might have been if he had developed you know these comedic writing chops. I mean, most likely it was. Imagine it without all the humor, and it's just a dark film because this is legitimately scary. You never see the wolf that clear until towards the end. That you don't see it too much at all. You see it just enough. I mean, it's a psychological horror flick, so you don't need to see a whole lot. But then you can piece it together as it goes on. But just imagine none of the comedy in it. Just think about that for a second.
Like it would be a different situation. I don't think it would be as enjoyable. But also back to teasing us with the wolf, it goes back into that like burlesque horror theme I'm seeing. Because like if you just like throw it at us, we're like, well, I'm gonna find issues with this because I can see all of it. But if you keep like giving us glimpses, you're like, oh, what's that? Ooh, is that an ankle? Ooh, is that an ant? And so yeah, it makes it more exciting. And so when it runs out at the end, you're like, yes, I've been waiting for this, and this is a badass bitch, and it's bigger than I thought.
It was.
It was bigger, yeah.
It was.
You heard it when he was 19. Mm-hmm.
Man, John Landis is younger than I thought he was. Sorry, John Landis.
Yeah.
I don't think you're old. So the scene, one of my favorite scenes is the dream sequence when he's with his family back home, and the militia of werewolves busts in.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would that be in a straight horror version of this by Landis, or do we think that rides more on the comedic side? Because that's pretty twisted right there. And that's the one part of the film that I am just still banging my head against the wall. As much as I love it, and I think that's what makes it such a unique film. That's what makes it such a different werewolf movie. But I looked at it as if he believed he was part of a small army getting ready to take over or something, maybe. Or help me out here, y'all.
That was such a wild scene. You know, like I'm glad they cut away from the kids because I didn't remember that moment, but I do know when like the kids started screaming, I was like, wait, do we see that happen? Because that would have just pushed it. Like,
oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I really thought that it was like this virus, right? When the bug comes, like you get sick and it's just gonna take over and take everything, take over everything. And that's kind of how it felt. I was like, wow, you okay? You shot everybody. Now you're gonna burn that. Like everything gets destroyed. You have to see what is happening, and then we kill you, right? Like he has to be aware of that. And I thought, yeah, that was everything's gonna consume around him until he ends what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, what a crazy
And I'm
scene.
always a fan of when like mayhem is happening around like either really funny things or really like mundane things. So like all these people are dying and Kermit the Frog is still like on TV, and that's the soundtrack
background.
you're hearing. You know, it reminds me of like Us when they're killing that whole family and Fuck the Police is playing on the the Siri or whatever it is they use. But like, yeah, so anytime that something like really out there is happening and like crazy, and then there's just something that's so diametrically opposed to that happening at the same time, it always makes me laugh a little bit.
Oh yeah, it's a dichotomy of times. Landis is Jewish and Nazis are not near enough. Okay.
Yeah. One of the things I also like while we're talking about Kermit in the background is like the soundtrack, because it was a lot of like Blue Moon and Dead Moon Rising and Marvelous Night for I just forgot the name of it. How I forget the name of it. It's a classic. My brain just quit on me on live TV. But yeah, no, it never felt like cheesy or like on the nose. It was like very subtle. And I appreciate that because like I love a good joke, but I don't love it when it's like, look at us, we're being funny. And this was more like you have to almost be like paying super duper fucking attention in order to be like, wait, that's Van Morrison. I know this. This is funny. And so they're like little Easter eggs like that.
Yeah.
So
Bad Moon Rising playing right before he transforms for the first time.
Yeah.
Classic.
And and something I loved about the movie is that he transforms so quick every time. You don't have to jerk around and see someone be uncomfortable for like 3 or 4 minutes and then they slowly transform. But boom, right away he goes into it. And then I love it in the movie theater. As bad as it was, knowing what was coming, he's begging the usher to run away while he's transforming. And the usher is just standing there like a dunce, not knowing that he's going to die soon. I wonder what the usher was thinking in that moment. What would be the inner monologue of this man?
He probably thought he knew what was happening in that seat because of the movie, but it was something completely different.
Yeah.
Oh, because it was in a porno theater, but still, like, couldn't he notice he was alone and his hands were on the seat? And
I don't think people ask questions in those situations.
But
they're just like, he is having a moment.
Yeah, I've never been in a European porno theater before, so I don't know what happened.
Either.
Yeah. While we're in this porno theater in
the
Piccadilly
sets that he's
Circus,
making are very sexual.
while we're in this movie theater in Piccadilly Circus, can we talk about this movie that they're watching and how this couple keeps getting interrupted for mundane bullshit? Like, she takes a phone call. She's like, I don't know you. And, like, this dude kicks in. And he's like, you said you'd stop. And he's like, I don't know you. And she's like,
I don't know you either.
He's like, oh, yeah. He just leaves.
And I was like, what were they doing back in the 70s? Where they were just like, let's just get everybody naked and have interruptions. It's like a farce. But, like, it was wild.
Well, was it an actual movie or was it made for a movie?
Good question.
Good question.
Probably made for the movie.
Probably.
I'm not a porno connoisseur, especially heterosexual porn, but
yeah, I'm not either. Despite what people think, I'm not.
Well, okay.
It was made for the movie, Robert Sims says.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
Yeah. Can you imagine getting that call? We want you in this movie, but it's going to be a movie within a movie?
Yeah. Like, oh, great, I'm in this movie, and my mom can't even watch it because of that one scene I'm in.
The porn. Yeah.
That would stink, though.
I never said that to you.
I'm in a John Landis movie. Kind of. Sort of.
Less 10 minutes.
And then the scene right after that, all the English bobbies, like they close the garage door and they're gathering out there. You got the man.
You got all the parts.
You got to have the part if you're going to play that one. But all the bobbies are gathering on the other side of the garage door right before Doug the werewolf busts through. Those bobbies, what do they have for a weapon? And then it kind of made me wonder, like, it kind of pulled me into how would this look if it were remade today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how would
because they were all trying to go to the action. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, you see this monster and you're trying to run towards it. I mean, I'm not British, but like, my ass is going the other way.
They might be lying to themselves, being like, "This is just a giant bear or something." To go back to the nurse girlfriend not making sense. Like, she runs up to this werewolf to be like, "Hey, it's me." I'm like, he's not that into you right now. I think that you should maybe wait in the car.
And so, yeah, I wondered that too. Why are all these people gathering here? And then as soon as it busts through, so it can kill all of them. Duh. I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to start the chaos, to show the utter lack of discretion for what's in its path, perhaps. But then when I was thinking about
forget how to drive and like run people over.
Running people over, man, like bodies getting ran over. But then it made me think, for a modern day remake, every idiot with a gun hiding in their coat would probably try to take care of it, perhaps. But then we would get the joy of watching their werewolf destroy them all, maybe.
Yeah.
I would watch that movie.
You'd watch that movie. Look, the cops had a great shot at the end, though.
We'll set it in Arkansas.
Like when those cops fired, I was like, how did they get around her?
Yeah.
For the shot, and I was like, well, they're definitely not stormtroopers, so like we're good. Because I was like, how the hell did you?
It's like that movie Looper.
I never saw it.
They appeared behind the werewolf, shot him in the back of the head.
They appeared behind him. Yeah. Okay. Blues Brothers was before. Yeah.
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 I mean, don't get me wrong. Chaos is fun.
Chaos is fun.
Always choose chaos. Always
chaos.
Yeah. Like a naked dude running around a zoo.
It's set in London.
Yeah. Like
that was
last week. I laughed so hard.
What were you saying, Derek?
That was me last week.
Little boy.
The whole London thing. Legit, I took my kid to the zoo.
That little boy going up to his mom.
Oh my God, I love that.
Naked American stole my balloons.
What? Best line reading of the 80s. What?
I was like, yeah, we would do that.
Yeah.
When he steals that red coat, and it fits him so slenderly and form-fitting.
Right? I could never find
good.
it so well.
I mean, he looked good this whole movie, but he looked good.
You look good.
The coat did remind me of Olive Oil a little bit because she had the red and black ensemble first.
Yeah.
Who wore it better?
Oh, olive oil. I mean,
olive oil. Yeah.
Yeah.
No shame in that. I'm looking at my other note. Frank Oz was in this, and I completely forgot about that.
Was he?
Yeah, he played Mr. Collins, the guy that comes in from the American Embassy.
That was bothering me so much. Who was it?
Awful voice, and I was like, "Is that how this all happened? Like, we get them up, we get all of this? Can I like?" But yeah, he came in, Mr. Collins. He's like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Yeah, I'd rather stay in London. If I have to go back with you, I'd rather like stay here." Good. I don't have to go back there.
And how come he's still just? I mean, okay, yeah, it's just bizarre. His friend died, and he's still just chilling in London.
Thank you. I have many issues with the reason he stayed in London and how he stayed in London. But also, like, I was definitely there when they were like, you have to come back early because there's a pandemic. And I was like, what do you mean early? I paid for 2 more days. And so I get wanting to stay after tragedy strikes. But also, like, why? Your friend was mauled to death. You woke up in a hospital. You think you're losing it. And, like, the only person who sort of kind of cares for you is the nurse who takes you home to sleep with you. Also, her seduction methods. Let's talk about that. I wrote down the exact fucking line. Hold, please. I find you very attractive and a little sad. And then she launched into her sexual history of 7 partners, 3 one-night stands. I was like, no one asked for all this. Say less. Say less.
I find you sexy and a little sad.
Yeah. Swipe
I want
right.
people to put that on their dating profiles and let me know how it
Let's
goes.
do it.
Just do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Get in that shower and get it done.
Right? Insta sour. It was just like, well, if you find me sad now, wait until 5 minutes from now. And
Ooh.
yeah.
Till tomorrow night.
Close to home. I agree, though. I unfortunately found the nurse to be probably the most uninteresting character in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, it really is, watching it, it really is a movie about a bunch of dudes working around each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
At the end of it all. Probably, I'd say that the female character with the most weight is probably the barkeep at the very beginning.
Yep.
Talk about a place begging to have a movie made about itself.
I want more.
She was.
Yeah, like, I guess you have to be in order to like run a pub like in the outskirts of nowhere where you know there's a werewolf running around. You can't just be gonna take anybody's shit. You gotta be like, look, Jack, you're gonna pay me and you're gonna tip me for this. Also, we're out of that cave.
So, how many other werewolves would you say were running around that town?
They were out of everything.
I feel like there's quite a few werewolves because they were not going outside alone. And there was a good conversation about we can't just leave them. Yeah, we can. I feel like there's a pack of werewolves just running around eating tourists from America.
Because they were still pretty dang tense when the doctor came.
I also just want to.
Yep.
I just want to see the scene where like 15 different people wake up naked from their werewolf. Like, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Hey, at least they're happy.
That's true.
They're in a good mood after a night of
They're
slaughtering.
full. He ain't never hungry.
I mean, I would be too. Right? I'd be so happy.
Oh, I did not feel sorry for the guy that the werewolf was chasing in the subway. Because, like, well, why the hell are you going to just lay on an escalator and think that's going to be faster than a damn werewolf? You've been running from this thing the whole time. Get your ass up and walk up this escalator.
Pace, you know?
That scene made me happy because Tottenham Court is like right in the West End, and you better believe my basic ass was there last spring. So I was like, is this one of my tubes? And I like Googled it. Like, it is one of my tubes. And then I was sad because I'm here in Indiana now. So
You should go back and be like, a man died there.
Right?
Well,
a werewolf attack.
I'm actually with you on in his I love that they just needlessly kill people before you get to know them. I hate setting up like, this is the character, you have to get to know who they are before they die, because you should have empathy for anyone who dies in a film. Let's be real. Yeah. So of course I wasn't like, yeah, I'm glad he's dead like you were, Trent. But I see why they set him up to be
walk
killed.
up the damn escalator and I'll feel sorry for you.
No, and you can. I get it, man. I get it. Escalators are there for a reason, and we should respect them, not lay on top of them. You're absolutely right. But then in the movie theater later, we learn about him. You know, then he have a wife and kids that he lost, and that was one of my more favorite comedic scenes in the movie as well. College kids ask about the star. Everyone clams up and basically throws them out.
Which the star looks pretty normal. Like, kindergartners draw a 5-point star, and they were like, no, it's this and that. I'm like, is it? What were they doing in the 80s? Like,
Remember the Alamo? And I was like, here we go.
It looked like it was painted in blood.
that would be a question. Had they been like, is that star with 5 points painted in blood? Then I'd be like, okay. But they were like, it's a 5-point star.
We put up wallpaper, flesh-made wallpaper, and scratched a star against it and put a candle on each side.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Big
it's no
deal.
big deal.
They had real problems in that town, such as werewolves. So like,
Problems,
Worse
yeah.
things out there.
Listen,
yeah. I wish the star was the biggest problem I had. Like, I wish.
So, okay, what was the absolute biggest problem then?
I think it's the werewolves. I think it's the werewolves. Those are kind of hard to get rid of, much like bed bugs. You know, like once you get them, you got them.
Yeah. Then you turn into one.
they killed that one though.
I feel like that's the first one they've killed in a while because they were
That's
afraid.
a good question, Robert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would they have believed her?
She did try to keep the guys there, and then like the rest of the pub was like, no, let them go, send them out there, as it was like a sacrifice. But really, it was just like obnoxious Americans were pains in the ass. They were like, I don't care until it might be too late, and then I might care a little bit because I have a conscience. As someone who works in customer service, I'd be on the fence.
You'd be on the fence.
Yeah. I mean, you got to ask yourself, do I really want these people coming back?
Yeah.
So,
I'm always
Good question.
curious about like
Very
how
good question.
becoming a werewolf works, right? Because he didn't have bite marks. And I'm told you're either cursed or you're bitten, right? Or can you pass
He was
werewolf
scratched, right?
He was
Like cat
all
scratch
the
fever.
things. He was all the things.
Yeah, I've always assumed it was just some form of contact DNA. Depending on what you watch, sometimes it's a scratch, sometimes it's a bite.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere now.
It depends on the movie and what they want to do. Because, like, spoiler alert, we have an episode for Ginger Snaps coming up. And apparently, werewolfism can also be an STD. So, like, it depends on what you want to do in your movie.
That's true. Because it makes more sense. Of
I have a
thinking
question
of
about
how many
werewolf-
more out there.
ism. Right. Do we think when you turn back into your human self, do you regrow new teeth or do you grow the same teeth you had beforehand?
I'm more worried about the skin. Because, like, your skin is not with you anymore.
Yeah.
That's true.
The stretch
That's
marks.
another good question. Like if you had like really dry skin beforehand, would it come back all nice and smooth and like you just went to a spa?
That'd be a really cool Neutrogena ad. It's just like sometimes my skin's a little dry and scratched.
Full moon.
Yes.
You're like, yeah. Yes.
What about all the hair? Does the hair just like fall off of you or does it retract back into your body?
Oh yeah.
But the
That's
teeth,
true.
thinking about this hurts
Because it did-
more.
Why didn't we learn more about the werewolf? Yeah.
Yeah, because we watched him turn the first time and it did not look cute. Things were stretching, hair was arriving, he was screaming, I'm on fire, and ripping himself out of his clothes. And then he was just like back to normal the next day.
Happier.
Happy.
Luis just asked, why didn't we learn
Doing
more about
great.
the werewolf that bit David? I just look at this whole movie like it's David's story, beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
It's just everything from his perspective.
Yeah, I didn't need to know.
I just want to know more about the specific
Yeah. I
werewolf
mean,
lore
it was
here.
interesting that
Mm.
it was interesting that we saw the dead body of the man. But like
I
I didn't
mean,
even
I
get
f-
past that.
I didn't even need that much because, like, the title, again, we have titles that tell us things like this one. And so I'm like, these are Americans. I know there's going to be an American werewolf in London. This math checks out. And so, like, they could have just shot the werewolf and left it to our imagination. I'd be like, yeah, that dude probably shifted back. Especially because the town was like, "Don't talk about it. Don't tell the doctor anything. Plan it."
Because David never mentions that he becomes a man again, right? Like he never says that there was a dead man too. He's like, I saw a wolf.
Yeah.
I mean, it helps bookend the film at least. It's not the very first scene, but
that's a good point.
You know, David. Right. You know, David has transformed after being killed at the end because of what you saw in the beginning. So maybe just train us of what things look like.
Also, this ending is abrupt, and I'm not mad about it because
I'm not either.
Nowadays you get like another 20 minutes of life after David's death, and here they were like, he's dead. Credits. Because I was like, okay, I guess we're done.
Yeah, it's none of that extra stuff in the beginning or the end.
I thought that was nice.
And that's just, as I said earlier, it's just a good part of the pacing of the film overall is you don't have to watch a bunch of extra crap. You see the story and that's it.
Yeah.
Hey, where's Trevor? Wait a second.
Where's Trevor?
It was Trevor.
Well, he's at the he's at the other end because they don't have food there.
Oh, I do wonder how. I do wonder how these people leave the pub on the nights where there are full moons, or do they just stay there until morning?
I would stay there. I'd stay and drink.
And that's where I want to be. I want to be somewhere safe with alcohol.
We're getting full moon wasted tonight, kids. All right,
here we go, yo.
I love it. Everybody calls it at work the next day. It's like, it's a full moon, so I'll see you in 3 days.
Yeah. I did make a note that it was very it brought up a lot of emotion seeing David in the apartment alone by himself. And I was like him pacing and trying to keep himself occupied. And I was like, that was me throughout the entire quarantine, still in this pandemic. And when I got hot, I'm like, am I a werewolf or am I having a panic attack? But I mean, I felt that even in this present time, being in that space, when you have nothing, where you're trying to occupy yourself with, something, there's like doom coming. I did like that. The way it was filmed, because I was like, I feel that. I feel that every day.
I'm not hungry. Keeps going back to the fridge. I'm not hungry.
I'm gonna read this book again.
I love that Jack had told him straight up, dude, there's a full moon in tomorrow. You're gonna change. And he was like, I hear you. I'm listening. And then he was caught reading a book on her chair when the full moon struck, and he was surprised. And I was like, I don't think you were listening.
And along with that, something else that I really like about this movie is that they don't insult you with like, what's a werewolf? A werewolf? And they do all this research and bullshit. It's like, hey, you're a werewolf. Oh, okay. I know exactly what that means because I exist in a world where werewolves are a thing in fiction. And you watch a zombie flick, a vampire flick, a werewolf movie, whatever. They have to set it up and explain what a monster is before somebody becomes a monster. It just cut all of that out. And we were all in on it together. You know, you didn't feel like you were living in a world of other expectations, but you were part of it.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first movie possibly all weekend without a bunch of exposition. Am I wrong?
Based off of what you've watched, no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen the babysitter flicks. Sorry.
Don't. There was.
Don't worry about
I mean, the second one was a lot of exposition that we didn't need.
I thought you loved them, Trent.
I like the first one. I think it's okay. The second one is trash.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll watch them sometime.
I love that your eyebrows were in real time because that was caught. For the first time all weekend, your eyebrows were like, I heard that on time. And then you were back to being frozen.
Yeah. I think you're right, because like Jack is the only one that has a lot of info, right? Gives us a little bit of info of like what the star is, why you have that, what it means, and that was it. That was that brief thing of the best friend having some knowledge on it, and then that's it. You go about your business.
I really loved Dead Jack and watching him decompose and revisit him. It felt very Stephen King to me. and I was a Stephen King kid, and I'm trying to like think about that because like now I'm a better person. But like it felt very Stephen King, and it felt very creep show, and I was like, I would watch this for at least 2 more hours, and then it was over because again, that was the end of the movie.
Love
the first time we see him decomposing. Yes. Oh, that was so gross. Especially the first time when it's so gooey and kind of. Ugh. By the end, it was kind of super campy, which was still fun. But like that first one. Ugh.
Yeah.
He had one little piece that was like shaking in the wind.
I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to see the toast come out when he was like, "Can I have some toast?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Let the toast fall out of his throat right now. Like, let it happen." And it didn't happen. I was like,
missed opportunities.
Go back and get that.
Yeah,
I can understand.
It's not cute. It's fun, but it's not cute.
It's not, and it probably took hours looking at it.
Dates.
I just really loved watching him deteriorate as his friend was deteriorating mentally and turned into a werewolf, which I imagine is R in the body, as we previously stated. So it was good to have that constant reminder. It's like, hey, this is really happening. This is really going down. Dude's not going to do well.
I think it helped show how close they really were as friends. That they're both breaking down together at the same time, but in different ways.
Oh, they did shoot a scene with that. I would have loved that.
Where is that? Who has the DVD?
I'm sorry, the toast was too much, but not seeing a porno?
A 15-minute porno is nothing compared to toast falling out of a neck. I mean, like, standards.
All the biddies, but no toast?
I mean, toast can be sexy.
I'll let it slide.
But the beheading was enough. You know, that was okay. The head falling off, rolling out into the street, and people getting ran over by cars.
I just loved the chorus of dead people talking to him in the porno because they were all like, no, we're kind of mad you killed us, and we're kind of mad we're in purgatory.
I love that. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
No, the only same, especially the little blonde British girl who was like, I'm really chipper, and this is just great. I was just like, what is this girl's story?
I enjoyed her.
And I love the scene
you should shoot yourself
in the street, and the Bobby's like, sir, I'll arrest you. And he starts talking shit about the Queen and everybody else.
That scene was when I was definitely like, oh yeah, this is of the 80s.
It was so cringe. I mean,
yeah,
the idea of it is funny, but nowadays it's
I could have done without the. Yeah, I could have done without the faggot joke, but you know, It's 1981.
But yeah, that's parts of it that didn't age well.
Yeah.
That moment, him and the coat getting stares because they were all up in his business, and it was supposed to be funny because there was a man in a woman's coat, and just like I don't know, I felt like some of these classics could be edited, so some of this would like fall out of it. But we never talk about that. We put it up for TV. Instead, we cut out the violence, and I'm like, I'm fine with violence. I'm not okay with this though. And so yeah. If I were in charge of anything, I would cut out those bits and pieces so people could like enjoy. And I'd put in the toast bits so people could also enjoy.
Yeah.
Or we just pull a Muppets and tell people before you watch it, like, hey, this is the time and it's messed up, but enjoy. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. Even Disney does that. Like, even Disney does that. I don't watch a lot of Disney, aside from like WandaVision because I'm me. But like I've heard Disney will be like, hey, this is Dumbo, but here's why it's wrong. Enjoy. And I'm like, you know what? That's yeah. So are there last thoughts before we get to hot takes? Any pressing notes we did not get to?
TCM, yeah, Robert said TCM is doing it. Yeah.
I mean, Nurse Price is a partner for being a modest lady. Pretty damn nice.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I thought so too. It was a pretty big apartment.
Right?
Also,
I was like,
granted, I'm not a young, early 20s woman in London in 1981, but who decorated her apartment? because it looked like someone who was 81 years old decorated it.
That's all 80s settings, unfortunately. It's like everybody's mama decorated all of it forever.
They just brought it in the house, yeah.
Embroidered everything. Like, it's like the land before time and everybody's apartment in the 80s movies I've seen. One of the lines I didn't get to was when the doctor first walks in on the nurses, and that one nurse is all like, I checked out his package, because that's a weird nurse. The doctor's like shutting that down, and he throws what is probably the best shade of the 80s with, surely you perform some function here at this hospital, nurse blah blah. And I was just like, I like this doctor.
He knows what's up.
Yeah.
I think overall something I really appreciated about it was a werewolf movie, that it was actual animal. It wasn't some weird hybrid man-wolf walking on 2 feet, being an upright creature. But it was a beast that was built like a freaking bulldozer. That was terrifying enough, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
My final thought.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do some hot takes before we wrap this weekend up with some announcements. Which is why I loved it, because British shade is some of the best shade.
It is good shade.
Yeah. I think it's why I got so good at it when I was a kid, because I would watch BBC whenever we had cable. But hot takes. Who wants to go first? You want to go, Trent, while you're here?
Derek, why don't you go first?
Hot take.
Oh, me? Okay,
Right.
cool. I'll go, because mine's really boring. I really enjoy this movie. I wish that they had handled the female lead of this film a little better and given her just a little more, just something to give me a reason to like her, because I just didn't. But I really enjoy this movie. It's trailblazing in makeup and special effects. And something that I will always say, watch this movie compared with the actual effects compared to some bullshit CGI that we're getting nowadays. This is better. It is better.
Yeah.
Is it cleaner? Probably not, but it looks cool, and I'm invested in it much more than seeing some CGI reindeer or wolves or whatever. So that's my hot take.
You want to go, Derek?
I just love how real it feels. Nothing is ever overdone. As I said earlier, I feel like it's the Fargo of horror flicks. And I've said it over and over again. And I'll say it again just to make my point again. I just feel like it's so perfectly paced from beginning to end. You don't have anything extra at the beginning to meet them. You don't have anything extra after he dies. It's a pretty contained story. Every scene just leads to the next one. Nothing is ever wasted. It feels kind of low budget, even though the effects are incredible. And Rick Baker won. It was the first Oscar for a horror flick to win special effects. It really sets the bar for every werewolf movie that came after it. And I don't think anything as intelligent or psychologically driven came out after this until Ginger Snaps. I think Ginger Snaps is really the true sequel to this, or at least in that same realm. I like The Howling, I like Wolfen, but they can't touch this. Cannot. And definitely after this discussion, I see a lot of different points of view of it. And I think it's because it's such a good movie that it offers a lot of things to think about in film and just in general art and social interactions with people. That's my hot take.
Yeah. There's not enough werewolf content, which is weird because it's one of the oldest monsters we can point at. But we get like a couple every decade.
And I love them. Love them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're hot, they're sexy, they're animalistic, werewolf.
For some reason, I remember the Jack Nicholson one, which was not sexy.
No.
Oh,
Wolf. It was like him and Michelle Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Well, I remember it well. Thank you. How dare you?
Thanks, Sharai.
I don't know. Uncle Jack is just there. Amanda.
I mean, you know, as we were talking about, I remember like I watched it and I enjoyed it. And there's a moment, I think it was like, oh, here's the racist guy. Here's this joke. Like I was like falling into that. I was like, damn it. Why did it, you know, is this humor? I don't know if it wasn't funny to me. And then I weighed on me, but then I really enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Because it's a cult classic and it's stunning. Like I love the transformation. The crap he's going through, how mental illness was treated, you know, and like this dog, somebody actually listening to you and believing you. So I did really enjoy that. And yeah, it's a really good movie. You do need to watch it. You need to see where we've been to where we're going and how can we go back to that, right? I don't want like teen heartthrobs in, you know, I mean, you kind of need them sometimes, but as long as they die first. But I don't want them. I want that kind of horror again. I want these monsters to have this life, and we don't need to know all this stuff. Just be in that world, and I miss that kind of work. And when I kiss when I kiss somebody, I'm just gonna hold them and hold a long kiss, and then after we're done, I'm gonna be like, I'm a werewolf. I think everyone should do that after you finish kissing someone, because I do love that scene where David just kisses Nurse Price, and she's like, I'm a werewolf. And I was like, and she didn't freak out. She was like, that's great. Do you want to come have sex with me?
Right?
Because
So
that
open.
works. That works.
So honest. Communication is key. Yeah. No. So my hot take, and like we're all theater folks, so we know about that canon. And I look at this as I do like some of the stuff in the canon, but like not all of it, but like when I would reach in and save, like for instance, I'm a Christopher Marlowe girl, surprisingly enough. I would reach in and pull out fast and then set the rest of the canon on fire. And I look at this sort of like that, because like it is problematic because it is of the 80s. But it's also like a real cool milestone for werewolves and horror in general. But I also am more concerned with movies that have come out after this and are still coming out that are much more problematic and can't rely on we were in the 80s. Sorry. It's like you were 2 years ago. I see you, babysitter killer queen. And so that's just my hot take. Yeah. A little bit of a rant, a little bit of a ramble.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you.
I love it.
We do have some announcements before we get to nonsense and more drinking. We will be back live the weekend of June 12th to celebrate my birthday after the fact with the Alien franchise. We're going to be the first 6. We're not going to touch those predators. We're not getting to those predators. First. Okay, fine then, Amanda. I'll just, yeah.
Yeah, that's not what you want. Okay. It's your birthday. Yeah. Whatever you want.
We'll do the predator ones sometime in the future. But we're going to do...
was maybe better than the first one. I think Predator 2 is better than the first one. That's what I'm going to say.
I haven't seen anything after like the 3rd Alien movie. So I'm excited to see what all I missed. And so I can have, I think I saw part of the Winona Ryder and it wasn't working out. And so I just went to sleep. That's my defense when it's not working out.
It won't work again. It won't work again.
Fair.
Not looking forward to that then. Tomorrow we're dropping the episode Run because like we're fools and didn't think we should give ourselves a break. So that episode will be wherever you listen to the podcast tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to upload. That is my word. We're going to upload all of these lovely episodes for international listeners that do not do social media later in the week because as we can see, Trent is having technical difficulties. So those are coming at you later. Yeah, and that is all I know.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes. So that is American Werewolf in London, and that is the end to my birthday weekend. Thank you to Derek for joining us for this show. Thanks you to all of the guests this weekend. Thank you to Amanda for generously jumping up on in here with us for all of these. We saw some great movies, and we saw some movies, and we saw some choices.
So many choices. So much choice.
Yeah, so be on the lookout. So many choices. But yeah, thank you all for watching and going on this journey with us. And make sure you stay fierce out there.
Bye.